Hello and welcome to Chronicle Live over on Facebook. To those listening later on our podcast, thanks for tuning in, or watching later on YouTube, thanks for tuning in as well. I'm joined by John Anderson, as you can see, Newcastle United legend and co-BBC Newcastle United co-commentator alongside Matthew Raisbeck. John, thanks for joining us. Are you looking forward to the new season kicking off on Saturday?
It's going to be really strange, Andrew. I mean, seeing all the games after lockdown with no supporters in stadiums, and it's a really strange atmosphere. But yeah, look, we've got to get on with it. And I think with the new signings that have come in, I think Steve Bruce has done well in this window. He's strengthened in areas that we needed, and I think the start that we've got is decent. West Ham, even though it's away from home, I think we're capable, more than capable, I think, of going there and getting the result on Saturday.
Obviously, we'll talk about the transfer window in just a bit, but that was going to be the main topic. But then yesterday, Newcastle United released a statement on the takeover. For those who haven't seen it, it's just on the screen there. Yeah. But if you haven't seen it, you might have been living under a rock. But amazing stuff, that statement alone. And then we've had the Premier League statement earlier this afternoon, which put to bed pretty much everything that Newcastle claimed. Newcastle claimed that the takeover had been officially rejected. The Premier League said it hadn't, and they said they were disappointed and surprised in the statement. Just to first off, when you saw that statement drop last night, John, what were you thinking? What was your first initial reaction?
I have to say it came as a complete surprise. I didn't expect it. I think it was strongly worded as well. You can tell that Mike Ashley wasn't happy. The football club wasn't happy. He's saying that they gave the Premier League everything that they required and everything that they wanted. It's a little bit tit for tat now. It's going to be really interesting to see where this one goes. Obviously, the Premier League have replied. We'll see what the response is from Newcastle United, and it's going to be interesting to see if PIF get involved in it as well. So it's one to keep a very close eye on.
And were you expecting such a strong reply from the Premier League as well? Because they've come out and their statement hasn't exactly been lacking punch, has it? And they've like you say, it is going to go back and forth now. Were you surprised at the strength of that statement?
Yeah, it's all legal jargon, really. It's what you expect from legal people. One lot of lawyers say one thing, they get a response from the opposition saying exactly what you think they're going to say. And it'll be interesting to see how we reply to it. It's I wasn't too sure whether it had gone away or not. It had gone very quiet. But I think that came out of the blue last night. The statement from Newcastle United, from Mike Ashley, came totally out of the blue. And as I said to you earlier, Andrew, it's going to be really interesting to see where this one finishes up.
You mentioned there that you thought it maybe had gone away since all the pressure that had been put on from MPs, from fans, from the supporters trust. Great show of unity. But releasing that statement so close to the season, and it's been a really positive week. You mentioned there the transfers, and it'll in a moment. But it's part of me, we wanted a response from the club, yes. And then part of me is thinking, well, is now really the right time to start the fight again, essentially?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Is it a couple of days before the season starts the right time to get into it all? It distracts from the football side of it. I think the way that the supporters responded when they were asked to respond with the petition and everything else that was signed was immense. It was unbelievable, the response that they got. But then it all went very dead. The supporters did their bit. They answered the call that Amanda Staveley put out to them. And then all of a sudden she disappeared. She didn't come back with anything whatsoever. And then to get that last night, it was a bolt out of the blue. But the way that it's going, you just think that the next step is going to be legal action. Now, are the club prepared to do that? Will they be prepared to do that with the backing of PIF? We'll have to wait and see.
Got a question here from one of our watchers there. You can see it on the screen. He says, what's your gut feeling, Ando? Do you think Ashley is plotting behind the scenes to rekindle the takeover or just hoping to gain some sympathy from fans?
Well, funny enough, I spoke to a few people and they're divided on it, really. Some people think that he's just playing the nicey nice card to try and get supporters back on side. That it's just a ploy to get supporters back on side. Other people think that he's serious about it. I think the thing with Mike Ashley is he doesn't say very much. You know, we haven't, in all his time here, we haven't heard him say an awful lot. So for him to come out and say that last night, you have to think that he's sincere about it, you know, that he wants this looked at. But as the next course of action, I feel has got to be legal, you know, unless they take it to the courts. I don't think there's going to be any outcome.
Transfers, meanwhile, Newcastle had to strengthen. Were you surprised? I mean, they brought in Ryan Fraser, Callum Wilson, Jeff Hendrick, all good players, Jamal Lewis, and obviously Mark Gillespie as well. To me, it's a sign of real intent that there's some quality players being brought in. Have you been surprised? Because it's been quite the outlay as well, Callum Wilson, Jamal Lewis.
Yeah.
Not exactly cheap. Have you been surprised that Mike Ashley has dipped in and backed Steve Bruce?
I have been, if I'm perfectly honest, yeah. The one thing I would say about the signings is that they've all got Premier League experience. They know what the league's all about. You know, it's not as if they've been thrown in at the deep end and not know what to expect. They've been there. They've got the T-shirt, so to speak. They know what Premier League football and what's expected of them in the Premier League. You know, Lewis, the young boy Lewis, I think is a good signing. I remember being one of the first games of the season last season. We went to Norwich. And Lewis on left wing back and Aaron's right wing back caused us all sorts of problems. Good engine, good pace, joins in, gets crosses in, looked a good player. And the boy on the other side, young Aaron's, looked a good player as well. So, yeah, I think he's a good signing. Wilson, you wouldn't say that Wilson's prolific, but his movement's good, gets himself in good areas. He's a good player. And I suppose that there's a bit more pressure on him because of the outlay that we spent on Joe Linton last season and his goals return. I think there'll be a little bit of pressure on Wilson to score early. You know, I think if anything, he needs to score early, take a little bit of pressure off himself, because the longer it goes, the more difficult it then becomes. Fraser, we know about, didn't have the greatest season in the world last season. I think he thought that he had clubs lined up, and because he didn't perform last season, it probably fell through for him with certain clubs. Season before, he was excellent. You know, good pace, gets at people, scores goals, creates goals. Jeff Hendrick, seen plenty of Jeff Hendrick for Ireland. Busy, good energy, gets up and down. The thing with Jeff Hendrick is he can play in numerous positions. Trying to tie him down to one position, or for him to try and tie himself down to one position, is going to be difficult. You know, I think he wants to play in the middle of midfield. Does he get in there at the weekend ahead of Shelby, Sean Longstaff, Hayden? You know, we'll have to wait and see. But overall, I think that 4 decent signings, because, as I say, they've got Premier League experience and they know what it's all about.
Now, a few of them are towards the age where a few years ago Newcastle would not have put the outlay out. We've got a question here from Ian Crow, and he's just asking, do you think Wilson Hendrick this window, Ashley thought he was still selling the club as he's on typical Ashley signings with the age and contract length? And that's a valid point, isn't it? What do you think?
It is. It's a very valid point. You know, Wilson, £20 million on somebody of his age, unless the penny is finally dropped with Mike Ashley, that, you know, 28, 29, some players are only getting into their prime. You know, some players are only peaking at that age. And the penny may well have finally dropped that he's got to bring some senior players in, some experienced players in. It's all about getting the blend right and getting the balance right. You know, as I said earlier, they've got experience. Hendrick has got international experience. Wilson's got international experience as well. So, you know, they know what the game's about. They've been there. So I think you could look at it and think, well, maybe he knows the club's going to be signed, and he can add this on to the value of the club. I don't know. I mean, we could think about it all night long and not come up with the right answer. But I just like to think that maybe the penny is finally dropped with him, that he realizes he has to bring senior players in. It's okay buying certain players for the future, but you need that bit of experience in there as well.
I mean, Steve Bruce has wanted, he's made no secret that he wanted Premier League experience, that British core. And we saw it last season with, you know, Federico Fernandez getting that extension, Andy Carroll coming in and then getting a new 1-year deal, Shelvey, Matt Ritchie as well. And that similar age bracket, you know, they're not exactly earning pennies, are they? You know, they're two of the club's most expensive weekly wage packets, and they've been given bumper deals. So do you think Steve Bruce has kind of been in the ear and he's won the battle maybe somewhere that Rafa Benitez potentially failed, because we know the battles Rafa had?
Yeah.
And it seems that maybe Bruce has won that battle. I don't know what you think.
Maybe. I mean, I have to admit, you would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in the meetings between Benitez and Mike Ashley and Steve Bruce and Mike Ashley. You know, to hear exactly what was going on. I think Steve Bruce would be saying, look, we need experience. We need players with Premier League experience. We need players who know what the league's about. It's okay going abroad and bringing players in. We've tried that in the past, and look what's happened. You know, and again, it comes back to the penny dropping with Mike Ashley, where he thinks, well, actually, yeah, you may well have a point there. We need to look closer to home and see what we can get in, see the players that we can get. I mean, as I say, the forward that he's brought in, got no problem with them whatsoever, because they've got that experience. I know there's a lot of people who still aren't happy with the business that's been done, but I think it's been decent business. I'd like to think that there'd be a couple more come in before that transfer window closes as well.
Is that your call up to get signed?
Yeah, that's. I think that's him on the phone. Yeah.
We've been asked here by Tommy Blacker whether, do you think this is the business done now, or is there anywhere that you'd like to still see Newcastle strengthen? For me, a striker, another striker, would be important, because at the moment you've probably only got Callum Wilson who can really hit it in the Premier League. Oh, I think we might have internet connection there.
I'd like to think that they could get another couple in.
Oh, I think, John, the internet's just froze.
I'd like to think that we could get another couple in.
Yeah, I think you're back. Yeah. I mean, where would you like to see them get strengthened the most? No, I think as is the risk with live broadcast, we seem to have lost John Anderson. We will just take him out of the stream a moment and see if we can get him back in. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that chat for the brief while. I'm sure we're going to try and get John back in. There we go. He's back in. Can you hear us all right, John?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Not sure what happened there. We'll get back to that question. Do you think this is the end of the business of the transfer window? And if not, where would you like to see them add some more players to?
I hope it's not. I'd like to see them, like you said, Andrew, I'd like to see them bring in another forward player. Whether that be on loan or whether it's a permanent deal and they've got to go and spend more money. I think right back, we need strengthening. I'd like to see him bring in a right back. I think we've got plenty of cover across midfield. I think the problem he's got, as much as you would like to see some more players coming in, I think he's got to unload first. You know, all of a sudden we're starting to look top heavy. Now, there's a lot of players on big contracts, decent contracts. Unloading these players is going to be easier said than done. Noel Lejeune has gone to Spain on loan, but can you get others out? You know, Muto, Yedlin, would he be looking to get rid of Yedlin? Don't see Yedlin being first choice. I think he shares another one he may well want to get. Aaron's, who they gave a big deal to and never kicked on, never progressed to the way that they thought that he was going to. Sabe there, Lazar is still there. You know, these are players that you get them off the wage bill. All of a sudden, you've got more money to play with, and you can wheel and deal a bit more. But actually getting rid of them and getting them out of the football club is going to be difficult.
That's the issue, isn't it? Because you've got the likes of Andre Savea, probably on £35,000-40,000 Muto, not too dissimilar to that, if higher. And the leagues where they're suited to, maybe Turkey, you know, the Bundesliga for Muto, they're not exactly going to pay the wage that Newcastle are playing because of the Premier League side.
Yeah, look, it's a case of, do these players actually want to play football, or are they quite happy to sit and see their contracts out and just pick their money up? You would like to think that there's one or two of them there who are good lads who want to get out and they want to play football. They want to play football week in, week out. I'm sure there's a few who are quite happy just to sit and pick their wage packets up. And there's not a great deal that you can do about that. You know, I think if the club want to do deals for them, they're going to have to come to a financial deal with them. You know, to pay them up in some way, to get them off the wage bill. Okay, they might be going to different leagues where their wage won't be as great, and we may have to make the rest of that up. But if you want them out of the club, that's the way you're going to have to do it, I think.
You mentioned there Cher and Lejeune. Lejeune looks like he's going to head to La Liga. Cher, he had an operation, dislocated shoulder, so he's not yet fully fit. We'll concentrate first of all on Cher. Is a fellow centre-back. Can you see where it's gone wrong for him? Because he had that storming season and then something just, whether it's a change of manager, a change of style, something's just not clicked for him.
I don't think it's a change of manager. I think it's a change of system. A lot of people think Cher's one of the better centre-backs, and a lot of people thought Lejeune the best centre-back. Football and wise, yes, both good on the ball. But I don't think you could play either of them as one of two centres. I think if you're going to play them, you've got to play them in one of the three. I think Rafa Benitez spotted that. He didn't think he could play them as a two, so he reverted to three. Because Cher, as we know, likes to get on it, likes to get forward, brings it forward, uses it well. But if he does that in a four, he isolates people. He doesn't, you know, all of a sudden you're very, very easy to get at if you're playing with a straight back four. Steve Bruce wants to play with a straight back four, and he obviously felt that Lejeune and Cher weren't going to be able to do that. Hence the reason you think that they're going to be gone.
And Steve Bruce, big season for him. You know, he came in last summer and it was a bit of a mess. It could have gone drastically wrong. But overall, a good season that he had last season. But now that he's changed Mike Ashley's approach to transfers, he's bringing in the players that he wants. He's kind of got no more excuses in many ways because it's up to him. He's been given what he wants. So how big of a season is it for Steve Bruce?
I think it's a big season for him. You know, I think last season and a lot of the football was really poor. You know, it was poor to watch. It wasn't great. There was results we got away with. You know, there was games that we shouldn't have got anything out of that we did. You know, the Everton one's the one that springs to mind. We should have been out of the sight. You've got 4 minutes of added on time, 2-0 down, and all of a sudden you get a point and you think, how did that ever happen?
I remember, I think I watched that a few weeks ago, and if I'm not mistaken, you turned to Reza and you said something like, I don't know if it was like blow the whistle now or something.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I said. I said, Reza went, we've got 4 minutes of added on time, and I went, do you really want another 4 minutes of this? Just shows you how things can change. But look, there was games last season that we got stuff out of that we shouldn't have done. The football wasn't great at times. In the end, it was a decent season, decent finish where we finished. But what was it, 4 wins in the last 20 games, 22 games? Not going to be good enough. You know, it needs to improve. The results need to be better this season because that type of form, you won't get out of it next season.
And another question from one of our viewers here, from Ernie. He says, in the current squad, who is best in the number 10 role, which we assume Steve Bruce is going to play again this season?
Yeah, he's got options there. He could play Almiron in there. He could play St. Maximin in there. St. Maximin, busy, good feet. Play Fraser on the left. So he's got one or two options. Sean Longstaff has done well in that hole as well. So he's got one or two options there. And I'm sure that it's something that he's looked at in pre-season. I don't think pre-season's been great, but it hasn't been great for a lot of teams because they haven't been able to get the games against the opposition that they wanted. They've had to localise it and one thing and another. But I think it'll be interesting to see what way he goes against West Ham on Saturday evening. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the side's going to be.
Well, we've asked our readers on Chronicle Live to pick their team, and this is it here. Is that a team that you'd go for, John? Is that the lineup? Bearing if everyone's fit. I mean, Fraser probably won't be fit and raring to go, but
yeah, I don't think Fraser will play. Fraser hasn't played since last March, and it doesn't matter how well he's kept himself physically and mentally. You lose that match sharpness. Now, not playing since March, I think he's a couple of weeks away. I don't think he'll play. I'd go along with the rest of the team, mate. I think that the rest of that side that was put up on the screen, I'd go with that. He may well play Matt Ritchie on that right side. Away from home, you know what you're going to get from Ritchie: work rate, desire, chasing, closing people down, getting the ball back. I don't see Fraser playing, but I'd go along with the rest of that team.
Have you been impressed with how the new signings have been speaking at a media day yesterday? And all three of them have spoken really well. And that seems to be that real desire to want to be here in Newcastle.
Yeah, I think they've all spoken very well. They've all got a buzz about being around the place and being at Newcastle. They all realise what a big club it is. Unfortunately, for a while, they're going to be playing in empty stadiums. They're not going to see what these fans are all about. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's still a big football club, and getting the opportunity to come here. They've all got that, seem to have that enthusiasm. They've all spoke very well. I think they've said the right things. But now they've got to go and do it. It's all about, it's one thing talking about it. You've now got to go and produce the goods, and you've got to do it on the pitch.
Before we finish with a couple of questions about your career in Newcastle, the prediction for the rest for the season, do you see Newcastle having a comfortable season in top 10? I mean, Callum Wilson spoke about getting in the top 10, and I think he used the word easy, or if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think anything's going to be easy in the Premier League. Hopefully the performances and the results are better than last year. They've got to be better than last year because, as I said, 4 wins from the last 22 games or whatever it was, that's not going to be good enough. That's relegation form, no matter what way you look at it. So performances have got to be better. Results have got to be better. Mid-table, I think, as long as we finish higher than last season, if we can finish higher than last season and improve, and then improve again the following season, it's baby steps. It's little steps, tiny little steps, tiny improvements. I know a lot of supporters won't be happy hearing that. They want everything to happen immediately, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case. But I think with the signings that he's brought in, and if he gets another couple in, 2, maybe 3, I think we'll be okay. I think we'll finish mid-table.
Final question from one of the viewers there. We've mentioned Hendrick already. You said you've seen a lot of them play for Ireland. Now, he said that he wants to play in that central role. We've mentioned the options that Steve Bruce has in the centre. We didn't even mention Matty Longstaff, who's another one who's signing a new contract. So you wonder what he's been told. Do you think Hendrick can A, have a good season, and B, make that central role his own?
I think there's a lot of competition for places in there. I think there's a lot of pressure on players to go and produce, because they know that if they don't produce, if they're not playing well, there's other people there to come in. I think when Hendrick gets his chance, I don't think he'll play at the weekend because obviously he's been away on international duty and one thing and another. But I think when his opportunity comes along, he's got to make sure that he grabs it with both hands, because, as I say, there's a lot of competition for those two central midfield roles.
Nice dilemma to have, though, isn't it? We're talking about competition.
Yeah, great. I mean, last season we spoke about how strong we were defensively from a centre half point of view. We had loads of centre backs, and if we picked up an injury, somebody came in and you didn't have a problem with it. Then all of a sudden they all got injured together. But you look at this midfield area now, and you look at this central midfield area, and obviously we didn't mention Matty Longstaff, but there is plenty of competition in there. So the pressure is on people who get the shirt, who get the nod, to make sure that they perform, because other people will be looking over their shoulder saying, "Well, if you're not going to be doing it, I'm here ready to step in."
We'll finish with a couple of questions on your career. When you first signed for Newcastle, in that summer of '82, I believe it was, did you expect that you'd be there for 10 years and you'd rack up, what was it, 330 odd appearances in the league?
No, not really. I signed a couple of weeks before Kevin. We both arrived in similar circumstances. He arrived on an aeroplane. I arrived on a bus. So we arrived in public transport. He had the plane named after him. But it was phenomenal, to arrive, and then for Kevin to arrive, and Terry Mack, and it was a phenomenal season. The promotion season, 83, 84. There was Kevin, Waddler, Peter Beardsley, players who scored goals, Terry Mack, Davy McCreary, all good players, good pros, Kenny Wharton, local lads as well. Kevin Carr was in goal. Jeff Clark came from Sunderland. So it was brilliant. But to be there 10 years and play as many games as I did, no, I never expected it. But thankful that it happened. And of course, never moved away.
I was going to say, I mean, we've got Tommy back on. He says, just like Supermac, John Anderson, build him a statue.
No. That's nice, but no, thank you. Yeah.
What is it with, because like you say, you've never moved away. So do players just get lost in that feeling and that love and affection that the crowd show them if they put 100% into playing for Newcastle?
I have to say, the Geordie people are the closest thing to Irish people that I've come across. Friendly, good banter, good bit of crack, don't suffer fools, and as I say, never expected to be here 10 years, and nearly 40 years now. So it's the nature of the people. They're just great people. Made a lot of friends, and no intentions of moving anywhere. But it's just a great place, and I'm sure when these new boys find out how great a place it is and how great the people are, they'll feel exactly the same, hopefully.
Good question there. Who was the best player that you played with, John, and against as well? So with and against.
I'm going to get slaughtered. People are going to say Peter Beardsley or Gaza or whatnot. Paul McGrath's the best player I ever played with. Paul McGrath had no knees. He never trained, and he was a phenomenal player. Jack, he was a centre back at Manchester United, centre back at Villa, and Jack played him in the middle of midfield at international level, and he stood out like a sore thumb. He was brilliant. He was a phenomenal player. Best I played against was Maradona. Maradona was brilliant. He was just different class. I'm pleased I didn't have to play against him every week, put it that way. He was a super player.
Right, I'm going to try and play this little video just to...
May fall here for Anderson! 1-1! John Anderson!
Now, a couple of questions. A, what were you doing so far up the pitch? And B, I mean, what a finish.
Yeah, it could have went anywhere. I played a few of them that have flown high wide and not so handsome. Yeah, caught it sweet as a nut. Fortunately, a little bit of bend on it, and went in the bottom corner, but didn't score too many, but got the odd one that wasn't too bad.
The one against Watford as well, the free kick stands out for many people. I mean, Alan Shearer would have been proud of that one. Was
yeah,
that
I mean, it was
that one?
the free kick. Brocky just touched it and just flew in top corner. As I say, didn't score too many, but there was one or two decent ones in there.
And then just finally, then, if by any luck some of the new signings are watching this, and if you are, hello, I doubtful, but what would be your message to them if they wanted to come to you and they wanted to say, you know, how do I make a success of my time here at Newcastle? How do I get the fans on side?
Go and enjoy it, but don't hide. Whatever you do, don't hide. Supporters here will put up with you having bad times and bad games, but they'll stick with you as long as they know that you're giving it 100% every time you pull on a black and white shirt. If you do that, they'll stick with you. They'll see you through it. But mainly go and enjoy it, because there's nowhere better to play your football than St James's Park when it's full and supporters are behind you. It's a phenomenal place to play. Enjoy every minute of it while you can.
Fantastic, John. Well, we appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to hearing you once again on BBC Newcastle when the season kicks off. You're going down to West Ham on Saturday, I take it?
West Ham on Saturday, yeah. Going down to the Athletic Stadium.
Which is not the best of stadiums to visit when there's a crowd there. So what's it going to be like without a crowd there?
It's soulless when there was 50,000 in it, so God knows what it's going to be like when there's nobody in it and you're a million miles away from, you need a pair of binoculars. But look, it is what it is. We've got to make do. I mean, the sooner the supporters are back, the better, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen for quite some time by the looks of it.
And your prediction then, just quickly for Saturday, you're predicting a win?
Win. I honestly do. West Ham haven't had the best pre-season. I honestly think we can go there and win. I'm confident. And I usually sit on the fence a little bit, but I think we'll go there and win on Saturday night.
Fantastic. Well, have a safe journey down. And once again, thank you very much for joining us.
Cheers, Andrew. Pleasure.